Hello everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV. It's the instant match reaction. It was West Ham 1, it was Liverpool 3. I'm Paul Machin. Ben Kelly joins me in the studio for this one. Ben, lovely, just lovely stuff.
Yeah, relief in the end. Yeah, I mean, obviously it took us a little while to get going. And you know, I think I don't want to start off necessarily on a negative note, but I think after Thursday, the performance of the first half was a little bit of a slog, was maybe a little bit underwhelming. But then, you know, you come out in the second half, it makes a couple of key changes, and you know, we look good again. You know, and today was always going to be a tough game, even after Thursday when we came away from that after having put in a really good performance. You know, West Ham were just below us in the table going into that game today. You know, they've been flying high. They've been getting some good results. They've got some really talented players. You know, obviously our injury situation again seemed to worsen every single time we play. But again, before the game today, we're missing Mane, and ultimately in the second half we swiped them, you know, to one side and get the win.
It was it's mad, isn't it? Because I think we all could do at the moments with Liverpool just handily winning games, get back to just being better in first half, being better in second half. But you know, those games where even if you're at the peak of your powers, your best players, your best 11 out there, with the approach that West Ham have, and you know, we've seen this approach time and time again, replicated all the way back now to the West Brom game just after Christmas. It's tough breaking teams down. It's dead hard. I can think of so many games that I've been to. I think about the amount of times we played Stoke, and it was just a grind. And you used to take mad games. I mean, think about a couple of those games, the Stoke games that stand out as like Bobby Firmino scoring a world, or Coutinho scores one from distance. You need those kind of things. The Spurs one, you know, because we started so brightly in that game, that it does. But you stand up by comparison. But you know, again, we had to rotate for this game. You know, we were nowhere near as strong in terms of our 11 that we put on the pitch here, and in terms of the turnaround. And again, I actually think West Ham defended far better than Tottenham did.
Yeah.
The absence of Mane makes a big difference. Something Chris and I pointed out during commentary. You didn't have Mane making that run from out to in and getting in behind their defence.
Yeah.
And
Salah tried to do that a couple of times though. Yeah. I think you're right. Overall, I mean, West Ham are always going to do that. They're going to be one of those teams that are going to sit in even more so than Tottenham, I'd say, because at least Tottenham have a little bit more pace on the counter attack to kind of break out from that. And obviously, you know, West Ham also has some very, you know, Declan Rice. They've got Ogbonna. You know, they've got some really strong defensive players who, you know, are going to find it very difficult. But I think what you need, and you know, and maybe where Liverpool struggled a little bit in the first half is obviously the introduction of Jones, quite literally in that split second, changed the game. Because I think in those games you need somebody who's just going to out from midfield take the game to West Ham a little bit more. You know, with the likes of Milner and Wijnaldum and Thiago, you know, nothing against them, they're not necessarily that type of player who's going to get the ball and run at a back four. You know, Thiago's probably your most creative out of those three players, but it is more with what he can do passing the ball, and it's the perfect type of game. This is why we always play Keita against West Ham when he's fit, because he picks up the ball. Chamberlain's good at doing it as well, and drives between the lines. And obviously it's the Jones change that makes the difference in the second half.
Yeah, and it's funny because we'll just touch upon it, because like it was perfect because you had Milner coming off
and having a moan,
having a little bit of a whinge at Jurgen about coming off, because look, we're all going 35 years old. You can't play 3 games a week, and Milner's like, says who? Yeah. I'll play every minute of every game, every single chance you give me. I'll take what I can get. And he obviously wasn't happy because he was having a good game, Milner, to his credit. Again, another good game. But Curtis Jones comes in, and you're right, just adds another dimension. The things, and I love the reaction from Milner then Klopp to it, just like two men are just go, because you know, we live in the internet generation where people die on hills forever and ever just for the sake of being angry about stuff. And I love that they've just done the thing that you would do. I've gone, right, okay.
It just sums everything up. I mean, we had this situation, didn't we, last season when it was Mane at Burnley, and like he was getting wound up for being brought off or whatever. And like, we know that as soon as you get in the dressing room, or as soon as you come out of the dressing room after a game, everything's fine. Like there isn't a problem. But to see it that instantaneously in a split second, Curtis Jones does that, and straight away it's just like, all's forgiven. Yeah, you were right. It's like, honestly, I thought it was just brilliant.
It says, it just says everything about this squad, and there's no egos in there. There's a system in place, and the manager has to be trusted to do what he does. And he got asked about it, and he said, like, I'm not always right, you know, but it's just, you know, it's one of those things, isn't it? I like the fact that no one's born any ill feelings over it. What I thought was great about Liverpool in this, and the way that they conducted themselves, was very much that they just kept trying things. We never fell into a trap. and we never fell into the trap of doing the same old stuff on repeat ad nauseum. You know, there was times when we used Trent really well down the right, there's times when we used Robbo really well down the right, there's moments where Divock Origi, particularly in that second half, he has that great run to the byline and cuts it back for Salah. You got moments where Milner's breaking lines and getting into the box, Thiago's trying to do the same. We kept probing. And I'd said this at half-time, and then Chris disagreed in terms of, I said, we need to keep pounding on the door. He said, well, we're not pounding on the door. It's like, well, okay, yeah, it's all down to definition. What Liverpool were doing was they were unsettling that defence, and there was no one moment, there was no one way of attack that West Ham went, right, we've got to grips with Liverpool here. Yeah. They just kept trying different things. We swapped positions, Milner crop up on the left and Thiago crop up on the left. And when you keep doing that and you have confidence in what you're doing, eventually it'll come, because we're a really good team, and that's just how the game pans out.
Yeah, and I think obviously the team selection helps that as well, because when I think, from West Ham's perspective, they look at the team and Firmino's not in there, Mane's not in there, Origi and Shaqiri in there, and it's not necessarily a list of players that there was no way of looking at the team and going, oh well, he's definitely playing there and he's definitely playing there. I think you touched on this before the game, so from their perspective as well, even on the pitch, if they're not necessarily keeping to specific positions throughout the game, it makes it a lot more difficult, and especially for a player like Shaqiri, I think, because I think when he is on song, he's quite underrated in the sense of he can do a lot of things with the ball. He can cross, he can play, through the eye of the needle passes. He can do a bit of running with the ball as well. And when he's playing in more of a 10 role like he was in periods of today's game, and he's supporting the left, he's supporting the right, he's picking the ball up in midfield, he's a very, very tough player to track.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Shaqiri is a good example of this today, where, when he was right in the thick of things, I think he's the fact that he's not up to speed in any great position, on any position, particularly on the field for us, kind of is a bit telling. But you see that second goal, like Klopp's actually said, I thought I was a bit annoyed because I thought he hit it too early, but that's a mark of genius.
Yeah.
Like that second goal for me, because the first goal's excellent, the third goal's outstanding. It was the beautiful simplicity of the second goal, where, particularly when we're playing against the counter-attacking team, and I think people forget that we are at our best. We're better than every counter-attacking side, because that's where we came from. That was how we evolved into this side. And you think Trent, not messing about, get it into Shaqiri. Mo trusts Shaqiri to go and do what he needs to do. And then Shaqiri, like, if he fluffs that, he fluffs it. But he's such a technically gifted footballer that he has that stuff in his locker, and that's the best of Shaqiri, when he's not being asked to perform a tactical role. He's not being asked to do all the extra bits and pieces. He's being asked to kick a football in such a way that creates opportunities. That's genius. And the touch from Mohamed Salah is
there aren't many players in the world who can do that and have the composure to knock that in. I mean, and even Mo Salah sometimes, I don't like it. Somehow it shocks me that Mo Salah had because that's the type of thing that Mo Salah often tries to control and then goes around the goalkeeper and maybe faffs about with a bit too much. But I think maybe he just got the taste for after scoring the first goal, and what a delicious finish that was. And you just go, I'm just sticking this in.
Well, it was clinical Salah at his best, where he's just touch goal. There you go. That's what I do.
And then he just brushes it off, doesn't he? Yeah. I'm what everybody.
Killer. And that, you're dead right in that. The Salah stuff is often where he has a little bit too much time or whatever. He's caught on the hop. I don't think there's any way he's expecting Shaqiri to play that first time, but he just clicks into world class footballer gear. The touch, I said, is absolutely, you could do that 100 times over and get it wrong every single time. You know what I mean? That's how difficult a pass it is to control. To then do it this is right foot. He brings it down with his right foot and then dinks it with his left. It's that's one of the goals of the season for me.
It's a bit of a cliche, but you can't teach that. You genuinely have either got it or you've not. And there are players in this Liverpool side. Milner had a couple of wayward touches in the first half. Who, as you say, it is about the technical gifted players. Shaqiri's one of them. Salah's definitely one of them. Where if you're somebody like James Milner, you can work and you can work and you work. But I don't necessarily think if it was James Milner in that situation, he quite would have had the natural caress of the ball. That's not his job, but it just highlights how good Salah is, because those players can do it without thinking.
He's one of the best footballers on the planet, and I think, and it's mad that we have to keep reminding ourselves of that. It should be like accepted, the way that it was accepted that like Suarez was the third best player in the world when he was at Liverpool, and you could say that and no one would go, but it's something about Salah where he has to prove himself every other week. His goal return is unreal, 20 goals a game in a season already, in all comps. I say he had that little slump which went along with Liverpool's slump in general. He's been unreal this season, absolutely unreal, and in a world where no one's talking about it, you know what I mean? Like from outside of Liverpool, everyone's going on about Harry Kane, and everyone's still talking about Vardy, and everyone's still talking about all these other bits and pieces. Salah just keeps doing it.
Honestly, I said this the other day. I said to my friends, in a Facebook Messenger group, I was like, he's got 19 goals. Obviously, he goes to 21 today. He's got 19 goals this season. He's leading the Golden Boot, and I still feel like the perception is he's not as good as he was or whatever. And I think it still comes down to that first season and the levels that he set himself. And unless you're Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo, you're probably not going to repeat that every single season. But to get 20 goals and above for 4 seasons in a row is absolutely outstanding. We're only in January. He's on course to score 35 plus.
Oh, absolutely. Well, no, look, I mean, you're dead right. He could, because you tend to find as well, like the season where he scored all the goals, he got better as the season went on. He hadn't scored half his goals by the halfway point. You know what I mean? This could be a 40-goal season for Mohamed Salah, the way he plays at the moment. And the Messi and the Ronaldo thing, you're right, superhuman players, and they're on a level that's above world class. They're almost not fair to have them in the top players in the world conversation, because they're like from another planet almost. But Salah's, for me, he's right up there, and he's so integral to what we do. And the best version of Mo Salah is the version that's been at Liverpool. When you consider all the other players that everyone's tried to float out, this is just every season turns up, scores the goals that we need. More often than not, walks off with the golden boot at the end of the season, and now he's unreal. And
I just wish he'd look a little bit happier when he does it sometimes.
It's like yeah. What do we want? I've made up if he doesn't want to celebrate, he can do whatever he can do.
To be fair, to counter that, he spoke quite well. I don't know whether you caught his interview after the game, but he did speak quite well, and he had a bit of banter with Jess Reeves. So what can you say?
It's like that. It's like the thing. He can celebrate however he wants. He can do whatever he wants.
He's earned the right.
There's just something about him, though, and I think this is the thing about Salah, that Mane has a bit of this as well, to be fair, but the truly best of the best. There's moments where you're breaking away and you maybe jump past the man and you score a great goal and you go, the other moment when you've ever been, we've all had this, I'm sure we've all had to some degrees in our limited footballing careers, when you've done something and you're so made up with it that you just are a bit like, I don't know, maybe that's just because I'm a bit of a prick, I don't know, but it's a bit of arrogance.
Yeah.
It's a bit of like, come on, I like that in Salah. I like the fact that he's just going about being lethal and being ruthless, and it definitely suits Liverpool, because it's another moment where, if we've talked about Liverpool losing that aura in the last 5 weeks or so, people thinking they can get more out of Liverpool than they should be able to think. And when you've got Salah, just look at Salah there. They'll be watching, Brighton will be watching that, and City will be watching that.
Brighton are a goal up against Tottenham already.
Right. But Brighton, City will be watching that stuff, and they'll be looking at Salah, and they'll be going, "Oh Christ," because that look and that attitude and that the way just.
The arrogance, it is an arrogance, isn't it? And that's okay in those players. Yeah. It goes. There's a fine line between self-belief and confidence, and then arrogance. And I think that's Gary Neville summed it up. And I don't particularly like to talk about Gary Neville, but he summed it up really well on one of the Monday Night Footballs before Christmas. He was like, a lot of the top players in the world that always talk about for the team, and they're doing it for the team. There's genuinely that part of Salah's brain that I think he said, being the best player in the world rocks his world. Yeah. Like he wants to go home, put his feet up at the end of the day, and say, that was fucking amazing from me today. How good was that from me? Yeah. He sits on the match of the day and they're talking about me again. I love that, and that's fine, because they are the players who will win you leagues. And
that's the thing, and it's a heavy burden to bear. Sometimes Gerrard had to bear that burden. Plenty of footballers have it over the years, where that, let's be honest, you're the best player. Yeah. And it's difficult at Liverpool, because you could make a case that Mane's our best player, and you could make a case that Virgil van Dijk's our best player, or Alisson, or blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, goals win football matches, and Salah scores more goals and therefore wins more football matches for us than anyone else. So he has that, so he does carry that pressure, and he knows it, and I think he likes it. I think he does.
But I don't necessarily think it's a pressure. I think the difference is now, certainly for the first time in my life, if Salah doesn't show up most of the time, Liverpool can still win football matches. Unlike when Luis Suarez was leading the team in 13-14, and the game against Chelsea late on in the season is the perfect example. If Suarez doesn't show up, we're struggling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because Sturridge was injured all the time, we didn't particularly have the defence to bail him out, or anything like that. So right now, I think Salah can just enjoy being the best player, if that's what you want to call him.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
because he's not showing up every week going,
you're right.
I've got to score.
You are right, but the point I'm sort of making in this is that he's the superstar of this team. He's the guy who's on the Pepsi billboards, and and he's the guy. He's the big. He is a he's a global icon. Yeah. So he is like, when we don't necessarily, might be the players we love. We might all love Andy Robertson more because we just do, you know what I mean? But Mohamed Salah is the global Liverpool icon. He is. I'm and Virgil van Dijk. They're the ones who are on the side of buildings. There's a we've chatted about, we've seen this. There's a Mohamed Salah. Well, there was a Mohamed Salah mural on the side of a building
theatre
in
in Times Square.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like, and that
everybody knows who he is. Generally,
there's a pressure that comes with that. There's a pressure of being being Africa's number one player. Like an entire continent looks to you.
Didn't he get a load of votes for Egyptian prime minister or president or something like that? Like that's the level that he's reached.
Well, this is the point. He's not just Liverpool pressure. He's got the global pressure, and you can see it. And I think he does carry that with him. And that's a pressure that we'll all never be able to understand. But this is games like this are where he elevates himself above all that. And again, we talk about this not being the guy, but he started in a front three with Origi and Shaqiri nominally. He is the guy who's got to go and win the game for us, and he goes and wins the game for us with two completely outrageously brilliant goals, which are provided by the platform of the team, and but he's still the guy who's tasked with doing it, and just great. I mean, I could go through it. We'll just briefly the only other player I want to focus on. We will talk about this. We're going to do an hour on this tomorrow on the Final Word show. So if you are a YouTube member, a club captain or club legend, or you subscribe to our streaming service on the redmentv.com, you'll get that full show tomorrow where we'll cover every player and every goal. Nat Phillips. I'll be honest. I've been as critical as anyone about Nat Phillips. I think we know what he is as a centre half. He impressed me. I've been critical of him, and I've said it also. I love watching Nat Phillips play football because he's a man who gives every ounce of himself to every movement he makes on the pitch. Like he plays like a lad who knows. This is it. This is it for me. This is my chance. This is my moment. I might never come again. So I'm going to go and pour every egg of energy into this stuff. And like today, not just that, because he was winning headers constantly, but he, in terms of his culture, in terms of his passing, in terms of his all-round play, it was just.
Sammy Hippie will be proud, Paul.
But But if you, and I said this on the fan reactions. If you came to this game, watched Liverpool, and were told that we had this inexperienced centre half at the back, you'd be looking at it going, where?
100%. And I think it might help that he's been talked through it by Henderson, because we saw that video that came out after the Spurs game. Henderson just doesn't shut up. So Henderson is talking to him all the time, which is great. That's what you want from your captain. And when he's playing at centre half, you'd argue that as a captain you've got a bigger area to sort of spread your net. Nat, he's so big and just in the air and then on the ball as well. I thought actually today he impressed me more than I expected him to, in terms of actually doing what Joel Matip does sometimes and bringing the ball forward and then playing the right pass. I still say I feel like sometimes he gets there and he goes, oh, now what, and he sort of then doesn't know what to do, panics a bit. But maybe that will come if he has to play more over the next few weeks. Obviously it's looking like we bringing a centre back in, which is good news, because I think we just need another body in there. But if ultimately over the next few weeks it might be a mix of Reece Williams, Nat Phillips and Ben Davies, if this is the guy, then at the moment I think it's Phillips' place to lose, in terms of the performances that we've seen between Phillips and Williams at the moment. Williams just looks like the guy out of those two.
Yeah, Phillips.
Did I say?
Yeah.
Did I say Phillips and Phillips? Or
No,
Williams
no,
and
yeah,
Williams?
Yeah, it's fine. Phillips is there. Yeah, Nat Phillips, great, absolutely fantastic performance from him, and yeah, it was great. It was a wonderful performance from Liverpool. Let us know your thoughts in the comments underneath. Don't forget to check out tomorrow. We're going to be doing the Final Word show 10:30. That's going to be streaming live on YouTube for Club Captain and Club Legend members, of course. And yeah, there's a whole host of additional extra content. If you want to stick around on YouTube, I'm going to be doing a video very shortly about the impending deal for Ben Davies as well. No idea what he just said there. But yeah, stay tuned for all of that on the YouTube channel. So that should be very good indeed. But yes, don't forget, we've also got Around the League show with Ben tomorrow. You're going to be doing stats and tactics as well.
Yes, and a tactical preview for City coming up this week as well.
Yes, all of that and a hell of a lot more on the redmentv.com, the full fat streaming service experience from us guys here at Redmen TV. So do go and check that out. But yes, that was wonderful. What a wonderful afternoon of football it has been. The Reds back up, climbing the table, third place, and hopefully in touching distance of Man City to really give them a bloody nose at the weekend after we get past Brighton. Fingers crossed. Look, we'll see it all soon, very shortly indeed, in fact. Ta-ra. Thank you so much for watching the Redmen TV YouTube channel. Everything we do here is funded by our wonderful subscribers to the redmentv.com. Get over there, sign up and get amazing additional content, interviews, documentaries, mini-series, and of course additional pre and post match day content.